So I managed to earn the lowest level of Malaysia Airlines status. It didn't go quite as planned, let's say that. It was a well-planned trip that I did to Malaysia from the UK, and it was designed to go well over the minimum level for Malaysia Airlines Silver Status. Unfortunately, certain events in the Middle East screwed up my plans. Is the Malaysia Airlines scheme a good replacement for the old British Airways Executive Club scheme? Find out in this video. How did my trip to Malaysia work in terms of earning Malaysian airline status? From an actual flight point of view, it was very successful. I did eventually earn Malaysian Airlines Silver Status, and it was always intended to be a step towards Gold Status, which will come later on in the year. But I did discover quite a few things about the Malaysian scheme as I went along. So the original plan was that I was going to fly from Dublin via Doha to Kuala Lumpur, do one business class flight in Malaysia, so from Kuala Lumpur to Penang, return, and then fly back via Doha to Dublin. And then I would also have flights from, obviously, Dublin to London, which is where I live. Now, the reason for flying from Dublin was that it says it goes over a barrier on the chart of distances that you earn on the Malaysian Airlines scheme. So if you fly over, I think it's 2,200 miles, it's 8 points. And if it's under, it's 6 points for economy. One of the things I like about the Malaysian Airlines scheme is that relatively you earn a lot of points for economy flights. You do have to fly a long way on economy flights to earn status, but it's not beyond the realms of possibility to do that on one trip. What actually happened to me in the end was that my return flight via Doha on Qatar was cancelled because of the activity in the Middle East, let's say that. There was a war going on, so they had to cancel the flight. So what I did was book a direct flight replacement from Kuala Lumpur to London Heathrow. And all the joys of Terminal 4. I was delayed a week because I couldn't get a flight with a decent price. So I booked a week ahead and I managed to get a reasonable priced flight that was cancelable, actually, back to London. So in that extra week, I thought, to try and make up the deficit I've lost in points from the return, I flew another return business class flight to Johor Bahru in the south of Malaysia for literally a one-day trip to that place, which is an interesting place in the south of Malaysia. So if we add up all of the points that I actually did earn this time, well, we'll ignore the London to Dublin bit for the moment because there's weird details with that. I had to miss the second leg of my flight back to London because of the fact that I was stuck in the Far East. And the first leg of the flight, I actually upgraded to business class because I suddenly realised I'm going to be flying with no status from Heathrow, and I was worried about them checking my check-in bag in and all this sort of stuff. So I thought, I'll just upgrade. I saw an offer for I think it was £50 to upgrade the flight. So I upgraded it with BA, but that's caused another issue. I'll tell about that in a minute. So I got the original flight from Dublin to Qatar, and that was 8 points. And then I stayed in Qatar for 3 days, thankfully, before the whole antics in the Middle East kicked off. And then I flew from Doha to Kuala Lumpur, and that was another 8 points. So that's 16 points in total. Then I flew to Penang return business class, and it's the very shortest business class flight, but that was 4 points in total. So we got 16 up to 20 points. Then my flight back was 10 points, so that's up to 30. And the return business class flight to Johor Bahru was an extra 4, so that took me up to 34. So 35 is the threshold. It's taken me a long time since the trip in February, so it's like towards the end of April now, and only last week did I actually get status. The issue was that my middle name wasn't on the British Airways ticket for that first leg of the flight, which was business class. In theory, should have been 2 elite points. But I raised a query with Malaysia Airlines, and they were like, well, they haven't closed the flight yet. And that was because of this second leg of the flight. They hadn't closed it in the BA system. So I had to call up British Airways to get them to close that flight. And eventually I got 1 elite point. For some reason, and I think this is something I've learned about the Malaysia Airlines scheme, they don't count the upgrade. So I got it for that original economy flight that I booked from London Heathrow to Dublin, which brings me up to 35 points. Unfortunately, I got a message from BA saying it would be weeks to sort it out, and I thought, I can't wait for this. So I'd already paid for one. You can actually pay money to buy elite points. So I paid like £100 for an elite point that I didn't need because I had one just come in like 3 days later, best tradition of these things. So that's how I got Malaysian Airlines Silver Status. Now, it's shown a few things about the scheme to me. Firstly, you need to be very clued up as to what fare classes Malaysia Airlines accepts. Because you're dealing mostly with economy flights, there are a lot of flights that they will not, any kind of basic or value flight, they don't accept as, they won't award points for. I think this is true in all the schemes, but because Malaysia Airlines is so economy focused, rewards economy so much more relatively than all the other schemes, it requires more for Malaysia Airlines scheme to worry about fare codes. So if you're thinking of booking a flight and you want to have that flight apply as a Malaysia Airlines scheme, you should go and check on the Malaysia Airlines partners site, go to that particular thing and check that it lists that fare code. And that seems to be true even for business class, some business class flights, like the upgrade. There was a U code that British Airways used on my upgrade. I think if I probably rung up and challenged them, they probably would give me that extra point. But now I'm over the threshold on, it's not so relevant. The other thing I learned is that if you've got a middle name, there is a separate field on the Malaysia Airlines thing, and they will not, unlike something like British Airways where you've just got a first name and a last name thing, you need to make sure that your middle name is put on the booking somewhere. I haven't booked a British Airways flight since to be able to check what it actually looks like on the form, but you might have to put, my middle name is Michael, so I might have to put Timothy Michael as the first name on the actual booking, so that then it will be matched with the records on Malaysia. They do seem to, if you raise it as a query afterwards, they will say, oh yeah, because I raised the flight. But it won't automatically match unless you put your middle name on the booking form. So that's something to consider. So that's my experience with the Malaysia Airlines schemes. Is it a possible replacement for the British Airways scheme? Yes, I do think for some people. One thing I would say is it's quite hard to actually earn all the points to get to Malaysia Gold Status, which is the equivalent of British Airways Silver Status, which is kind of the sweet spot for airline status because you get things like fast track entry and you get lounge access with the with the silver status. What I've got at the moment is the equivalent of BA bronze, so it's Malaysian silver. It's very confusing, but the lowest level, so Ruby, I think it's called Ruby, Oneworld Ruby Status. That does bring some advantages though, especially with American Airlines flights, because it gets you up a priority level. So you're not in the lowest level of priority. Because I'm Oneworld Ruby now, I think I'm like group 3. And if you've ever flown on American Airlines and some British Airways flights, if you're carrying a check-in bag to put in the overhead lockers, they will force people in the later groups to check their bag in. And I don't want to do that. So that's a good thing. And also you get onto the plane faster. You'll be like in the middle of the people going on the plane. You won't be in the last group of people. Probably won't be somebody sitting in your seat by accident or something like that. So that's a good thing about having the Oneworld Ruby status. The other thing is that for the British airline flights, it allows you to pick your seat a week in advance, which again is good if you're somebody like me who wants to have an aisle seat. Because I'm not so bothered about a particular seat, but because I don't want to be sitting in an economy in a middle seat, or even, to be honest, in a window seat, just there isn't enough space. I'm a big person. I was always having to pay for seat allocation, so that's going to save me money on BA flights in that I can just go in a week ahead and pick an aisle seat. So those two things are worth something. I still have got British Airways Silver Status from my old scheme, but that's running out in September and I'm not going to be able to re-earn it. So I'm going to look over the next rest of this calendar year for opportunities to earn the next 30 odd points for Malaysian Airlines Silver Status, Gold Status even. Even I'm getting confused now. And I think that is doable. So in the next video, I'm going to talk in more detail about how to actually earn Malaysian Airlines status in terms of all the finicky details about what sort of flights to choose and that kind of stuff. Hopefully you've enjoyed my experiences about Malaysian Airlines status. And please subscribe. And I also have a Substack channel, which I don't post on enough, but I post slightly more than here. And that's Tim Lewis TCF on Substack. So I love it if you subscribe there as well. So thank you for watching this video.